Hey, let's get into it, shall we? Hold on, let me just make it a little bit better here. Sorry about that. So, as it stands right now, Prince Andrew on his 66th birthday is being called in and arrested for allegations of wrongdoing during business practices because he himself have been complicit and been seen found in these files. The files that if they are actually brought to trial in the United Kingdom, they will require the DOJ for the United States to actually release the files unredacted so that they can use that to bring a charge against Andrew in court. But guess what's happening? Right now, as it stands, with Prince Andrew being arrested, thanks for everybody that's going to come in on this. Prince Andrew being arrested is going to create a big problem for the Department of Justice because here's the deal. If the Department of Justice is called forward to provide unredacted full evidence of Prince Andrew, formerly Prince Andrew, to the United Kingdom, then that will open the floodgates to all of these files because here's the deal, there is discovery, and the United Kingdom has a right and processes of discovery just like they do in the United States. It might not be as restringent as it is here, but it still doesn't change the fact that the United Kingdom could be pressing on the Department of Justice in the next couple of months to release the unredacted files pertaining to Prince Andrew. And how will that spiderweb to the rest of the world? We don't know. But what we do know is that Prince Andrew is being brought forward on charges. This was royalty. This was a king's brother. This was somebody who was thought to be above approach, but yet still he's been arrested. The tangerine twat waffle who sits in the Oval Circus is eating his McFly, Chick-fil-A, or, I'm sorry, it's McDonald's McFish fillet, and laughing his butt off because while everybody is sitting here scrambling around trying to actually take charge and see these files, he's hiding them. He's suppressing them because, as I've said multiple times in different videos, his power comes from being able to conceal and hold those files in. Once those files are truly opened up and the names are unredacted and the names go out there, his control over those individuals becomes impotent. He has no control over a secret if the secret is known by everybody. And that, unfortunately, is the reality that we're facing right now because these files have the power they have because they're being contained by the powerful people behind the mirror. Once you sit there and actually pull that, oh God, sorry about that. Sorry for the Discord. Once you pull back that veil and all of these people that have been hiding in the shadows is revealed, Trump's power is dwindled to zero, which means that he will wind up being impeached and incarcerated, maybe brought up on charges of treason. I don't know. But what we do know for certain is that the files are there. There is no way to keep hiding this for very long because it's not a matter of just working the files that the DOJ gives. It's each one of these countries that have opened up an investigation, 25 in total so far, that have actually started to deconstruct all of this information and try to find it from a different angle, corroborating evidence, which is the big deal right now. Because here's the deal. As it stands, every story has at least corroborating evidence that can be found. If you have an allegation, if somebody got a tent spike up their butt and they were airlifted to a hospital, then there's going to be flight records to that. If there are enough women that come forward and allege certain incidences and are able to give information, key elements that no one else knew, they're going to be able to use that to construct charges against these individuals. And that is the big question. Why would the Department of Justice put themselves in such risk of being found guilty of co-conspirator acts or accessory after the fact and be locking these people or hiding these files from the victims to have justice? I'm just trying to understand exactly how this is possible. How do we have a justice system in the United States that is willing to actually, I don't know, aid and abet criminals that have done harm to small children? Because this isn't a matter of, adults, fornicating, prostitution, what is it, Monica Lewinsky's, indiscretions with Bill Clinton in the Oval, and lying about it. These are children that are supposedly harmed and been victimized by grown adults. I mean, the fact of the stories about, bodies in the back of the back nine, or, the tent spike, or babies being eaten, or, the fact of the suckling factor, that keeping a nursing mother around the children makes them. There's vile things that have been found and brought forward in this files, and yet this country fails to actually prosecute anybody for it. People are refusing to prosecute people that are actually in this country. Why? Because they want to protect the tangerine twat waffle in the Oval Circus. It appears that his power is more important to everybody than children in this country, which is not completely unheard of, because here's the deal. This country has had no problem defending the Second Amendment over children's rights. When it came to children in this country going to school safe, and and not worrying about being unalive because of hand weapons, they had no love for it. Nope, sorry, we can't change the Second Amendment. That's impossible. You can't do that. But yes, you can. That's why it's an amendment. It was an amendment to something that could possibly be changed in the future. We used to own slaves. We had an amendment that changed that. There's been tons of things that we've changed about our Constitution, but yet somehow the Second Amendment, nope, can't touch that. But we are okay with children going to school unalive. Now you've got children that have been harmed by corrupt Congress people, businessmen, you name it. And that's what's been happening. And yet somehow this country, the land of the free and the home of the brave, are more like, I don't know, ostriches with their head in the sand rather than eagles soaring to new heights, because they have kept their head in the sand. They've ignored everything. And Pam Bondi coming out with this whole big, attitude during the House Oversight Committee. Meanwhile, she didn't even have the nerve to look at the people that were behind her. There were people behind her looking for justice. There were people behind her looking to have their voice heard, and she couldn't be bothered turning around and looking at anybody. And that ultimately is a big problem, because here we go with a situation of the DOJ already making up their mind about exactly what is right and what's wrong. And they have decided to go with their guy. They've decided to placate to their boss, because the Department of Justice, even though they're supposed to be operating separate to the White House and operating autonomously to bring justice across the country, regardless of where it falls, it not supposed to be derived by political gains or party, is doing exactly what Trump wants and following leads that he produces. He writes something in True Social, Pam Bondi follows forward. He went on True Social and said, "I want Comey and James prosecuted." There was indictments brought up. He wanted Comey done as well. Jack Smith, all of these people, he wanted these people prosecuted because they were trying to bring prosecutions onto him. He's using the DOJ as his own personal watchdog. And what's wind up happening? He's literally using the weaponizing everything. And instead of taking accountability, Pam Bondi is doubled down from willfully ignorant to complicit to co-conspirator. Because how could she possibly look at all of these files, see all that's in there, and still be defending this guy like as if he's, some moral saint? How could you possibly think that this would be okay? But yet, haha, that's what they're doing. She sat there while the victims were staring behind her. She smiled for the camera, like to say, "Oh, look at me, Daddy, I'm doing such a great job." How is that possible? I don't understand. I really, really don't understand the logic or the reason behind all of it. But then, then again, I'm not a corrupt businessman. I'm not sitting here looking. Hold on, I apologize. Again, I'm not looking at a situation where we've got a problem. I'm stammered for a second. I apologize. I'm just trying to look at something. But the reality is that we have a corrupt system protecting the president of the United States, which lends the question, what do we do when this all goes sideways? We are going to have to do no choice. We're going to have to cut this out at the root. We have to remove all of these Congress people who decided to vote to keep the Epstein silent. We have to get rid of the people that are literally trying to sabotage our democracy. And who's going to do it? Is it going to be the Democrats? Is it going to be anybody in the Democratic Party that's actually going to step up and do something? I don't know. I don't even believe that's possible, because the thing of it is this: when the Senate had an opportunity to release the files, they all voted against it. The House, same thing, voted against it. We've watched systematically this Republican Party turn a blind eye. Les Westman was interviewed by Democrats at his home yesterday. Not one Republican went there to ask questions. Not one Republican wanted to make this guy take count and be heard. They didn't want to ask him questions. They didn't want to know from him. They didn't want to hear anything. But yet they're so hopped up on the idea of Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton going in to sit down, but yet they don't want to do it in front of a live audience. They don't want to do it on camera in front of the world. Why? Why is it that this country is so beholden onto this tangerine twat waffle? How is it that he has all this power? The answer is the files. He has the files in hand. He has taken these files and he's weaponized them, and he's using them just as his buddy did. Because do you think that that ring crashed when Epstein was unalived? I mean, I brought this up in another live, but the reality is that Epstein was a trafficker of people. That's not a one man story. That's not a one man job. To traffic means you would have to actually take people from one place, bring them to the other, and give them to the people. So if he was charged with trafficking and there was allegations and charges of being a trafficker, then who is he trafficking to? Who helped him? So Westman, that's the guy they're going after now, because follow the money. What about the banking records? Why aren't they looking at the banking records? So again, these are a lot of the thoughts processes that I've had. I've wanted to share this with people. I like to talk to people about different things. If you like this, please share it with more people. If you have comments, concerns, if there's something that I said that you didn't like, please let me know. I'll be happy to go into it more detail. But like I says, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate being able to talk with you guys, and leave comments. Let me know what you think. Whoops, I screwed up.